Hello, everyone. On behalf of AAEE Board Member and Director of Professional Development, Alicia Scott, it's my pleasure to welcome you to another webinar hosted by the American Association for Employment in Education as we continue to support pre-K through 12 educator preparation, recruitment, and retention. Thank you for joining us for today's topic, Opportunities to Teach Overseas in Australia. My name is Tim Newbert, and I serve as AAEE's Executive Director. Please allow me to cover just a few housekeeping matters before we begin. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to AAEE members as well as non-members who registered for the event. Attendees are encouraged to post any questions, comments, or feedback using the Q&A or chat features within Zoom. If you do not yet have AAEE membership, please visit our website, aaee.org, to learn more about our activities and resources. We're a nonprofit association intent on positively impacting education through professional connections, connecting the following three critical groups involved with the preparation, recruitment, and retention of pre-K through 12 educators: university professionals and others who prepare and support educators, school assistant professionals and others who recruit, hire, and retain them, and of course, educator candidates themselves. Joining me today for today's webinar is Linnea Kalchos. Linnea is a certified teacher who taught and lived in Melbourne, Australia for 3 years, where she traveled to 3 countries and 7 Australian states and completed her regional work to secure her additional visas. She graduated from Queen's University's concurrent education program with a specialization in international education. Linnea has studied and taught in 4 countries as a high school humanities teacher and has a special interest in social emotional programming, English language learners, and special education. She is passionate about helping teachers find passion and purpose through diverse experiences working overseas. Thank you for being here today, Linnea. I'll now turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Tim. What a nice introduction. I don't always get, somebody to co-host with me like that and give me a warm welcome, so I appreciate it. Hi everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today to our webinar. Leading Out is so excited to be here with all of you. And for those of you that are watching this recording later on, we appreciate you taking the time. So I was saying to Tim before we got started that usually the way that I kind of run these is I'll talk for about 20, 25 minutes at the most and kind of run through my slides, share some opportunities with you, explain a little bit about who we are and what we do and who I am as well. And then really these webinars are a lot better if you all kind of engage, ask some questions, please use the chat, please use the Q&A. I'm going to leave dedicated time at the end for you to ask questions, but also if you want to ask any clarifying questions or mention anything while we're chatting, that would be excellent as well. And I'll try to address those as we go. All right, so let's get started. So Tim tells me that I could be speaking to a pretty diverse crowd of folks in terms of where you're at, maybe in your teacher education, or perhaps you're somebody who works with teacher candidates or any of those things. So usually when we begin these webinars, we invite folks to sort of think about where they're at in the process of teaching abroad. So for some people, you may be here because you're super excited about Australia. You've always wanted to go. You've maybe done your research on us and you're here to find out more. That's excellent. For some people, you may be thinking, oh, I might like to teach overseas. I'm not totally sure where. I'm not totally sure who with. And hopefully today we'll get some of those questions answered for you and really kind of share why Australia is a fantastic place to be looking at for your overseas teaching adventure. And then for other people, and I would suspect this is probably not most of you, given that you're here, some people may be thinking, no, I don't really want to go overseas. I'm just here to check it out, but I'm probably going to stay kind of at home or close by. And so again, hopefully this webinar gives you some opportunity and some chances to think about why teaching in Australia might actually be a good fit and why we think it's pretty doable for you as well. All right, so who is Leading Out? We're actually one of the smaller recruitment agencies that works with Canadian and American teachers, but we're really proud of that fact for a few reasons. So the first is that because we're on the smaller side and because we don't make an offer to work with everybody that applies with us or everybody that interviews with us, we're able to provide the teachers that we do work with a really personalized level of relocation support. So I'm going to show you the complete list, kind of what that looks like in a few slides, but we really do take an individualized personal approach to all of our work with our teachers, and we can really help you out with any relocation question that you might have when you work with us. We also have a really strong community of leading out teachers. So both folks that are currently overseas teaching in Australia and New Zealand, and people that have come home, come back to North America that are kind of like alumni. And we find that teachers are really willing to sort of connect with one another, answer questions, chat, sometimes meet up and travel together. And we're really proud of that community, and we try to facilitate it as much as possible. And then the last piece that I think makes leading out a little bit unique and a little bit special is not only is everybody on staff actually a teacher themselves, but as you heard from my bio, you can probably guess, everybody on our team has actually been a leading out teacher themselves. So we've all done this experience and taught in either Australia or New Zealand, or some of us both. And that's why we're back working here to help more teachers. All right. So speaking of, and I just see your question in the Q and answer. Thank you for that. I'll definitely address some of the minimum requirements as we go. So I appreciate that, and I will get to you. All right. So speaking about leading out kind of more generally, now I do want to speak a little bit about myself and give all of you a chance to get to know me a little bit better. So I'm originally from Ontario, Canada. As Tim mentioned, that's where I did all of my training. I got connected with Leading Out just as I was finishing my Bachelor of Education and decided that I wanted to move to Australia. So that's what I did. I moved down to Melbourne in the summer of 2018. And when I was down there, did a number of things. So I was a supply teacher, a casual or relief teacher for a while. I had some short-term coverage positions. And then eventually I was on contract directly with a school. So my background, I'm a secondary school history and geography teacher. I ended up being in Melbourne for 3 years. I actually didn't plan on being down there that long, but as I'm sure all of you know, COVID happened, the world shut down, and so my trip got extended a little bit. But I always say if you're going to be stuck anywhere in the world, you might as well be stuck in Australia, right? So no regrets. And now I'm back in Canada actually, and been working with Leading Out for a few years now, and just really been enjoying meeting teachers and helping them have the same great experience that I had. And that's the case for many of my colleagues as well. All right, so we'll keep things moving and talk a little bit about why Australia and New Zealand are excellent destinations for you all to teach. So a lot of teachers come to us because they want an international opportunity, but they don't want to be experiencing, really significant culture shock. So we find that the school environment and culture is very, very similar to what you would expect from North America and from the UK. Canadian and American teachers fit in quite nicely down there. They're really excited to have North American teachers, and we also have a lot to offer the Australian system. So recently, they've been working on a big focus on innovation in their schools, diversity, technology, STEM learning for those of you that are passionate about that, project-based learning, universal design, all of those different things that we're trained in as North American teachers. The Australians are working on as well, and they want to hear from us and hear from our expertise, which I think is a pretty cool thing to be a part of. In addition to that, we work with a number of schools and locations. Most of our work is in Melbourne, which is what I'll be focusing on today. There is a little bit of opportunity in New Zealand, but I'll address that kind of later on when we talk about some more concrete opportunities. I do want to mention as well that for our schools in Melbourne, there are maximum commute times. So you know every day that you're only going to be traveling within a certain radius. Those commute times are 45 minutes by car or 75 minutes on public transit. So either is fine, whichever method of transportation you prefer, but you're never going to be going farther than those times or those radiuses. All right, so I did mention that I would show you kind of a big list. This isn't comprehensive. We can basically help you with any question that you might have, whether it's on this list or not. But I do want to highlight a couple of really key things that our Leading Out team will help you out with. So I don't know if you can see my blue dot. The first is getting you licensed and certified in Australia. So this is one of the biggest parts of my job is to make that process a lot easier for all of you. I'll talk again in a couple of slides about actually the credentials that you need, the minimum requirements to teach down there. But once we can make sure you've got those, then it's my job to walk you through that licensing process. We're also going to support you in getting your visa. Again, we can talk about specifics if people have individual questions later on, but working with you to get your visa and make sure that you've got your working rights is going to be a big part of our work together as well. Then from there, we support you with all the rest of these different pieces. So banking, health insurance, curriculum information, taxes, all of those different pieces. One question that I get asked very frequently is about housing. Certainly, housing in Melbourne can be very competitive, given that it's one of the top cities in the world to live in. It's a good thing. Everybody wants to be there. And so, Leading Out really wants to make sure that our teachers are well supported when it comes to housing and accommodation. So, every few months, it's actually my job with the organization, I'll run housing webinars for our teachers. And so what we do is we Zoom in all the Leading Out staff, we Zoom in all of our Australian partners, the Leading Out teachers, and we talk about housing in Melbourne. So we talk about average rental pricing, transit maps, we look at distance from schools, we connect roommates if people are interested in that, and basically we give you all the information that you need to make a decision about housing and to support yourself. All right. So the big question, I know some of you are keen to start thinking about this already, is what types of opportunities are available through Leading Out? So as I've been alluding to earlier, most of our work is in Australia and New Zealand, predominantly Australia, and I'll get to that in a little bit. For our folks that are brand new teachers, so folks that are just graduated or in the process of graduating, we've got heaps of substitute teaching work. And I'll talk about contracts in a couple of slides as well. In particular, for those new teachers and teacher candidates that I mentioned, we've got guaranteed pay supply contracts. So the way that this works, we can guarantee full-time, 5 days per week supply teaching work in Melbourne. You're going to be paid at a rate of 370 Australian dollars per day before taxes and deductions. You're looking at around 300 take-home pay. If we can't find you a shift or a call to go to a school on any given day, we'll actually pay you anyways for that day, which is why we call it the guaranteed pay contract. So great knowing that you can move down, you've got access to guaranteed full-time income, but it's also very flexible. So on the guaranteed pay contract, if you want to go for, 3 or 4 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever you want to do, we're okay with it as long as you've got a valid visa, and we can kind of have that discussion with you as well. So very flexible. The last piece about guaranteed pay that I do want to mention is something called a superannuation payment. So I wouldn't assume that you all know what that is. It's a very term that's specific to Australia, but basically it works like a pension plan. So this is 10.5% that is paid on top of your wages. So in addition to your 370 per day, and that goes directly into an investment or savings kind of fund for you. And it's meant to act like your retirement fund or your pension. Basically, you can either keep that in Australia and live there forever and retire on it, or when you come home and when you declare that you're officially leaving Australia, you're not working there anymore, you actually get to cash out this payment, which is pretty cool. It will be taxed, of course, but we always like to joke that if you move to Australia, you spend all your money on traveling and cool experiences and that kind of thing. Even if you leave with $0, you're never leaving with $0 because you do have access to that superannuation fund. All right, so hopefully starting to address some of your questions here. Am I eligible to teach overseas with Leading Out? So the first piece is your certification. You won't have to do any extra exams or certifications unless your original university degree is not in English, and then you'll have to take a proficiency test. Again, that's something I can answer on an individual basis for people, but mostly if you attended an English university, you're going to meet this requirement. You won't have to do any extra exams. You will need a university bachelor's degree, and you will need an accredited teaching certificate. So for most folks, that's a Bachelor of Education or an equivalent. You will also, as part of your studies, need to have done required supervised teaching days. For most of you, that will just mean your practicum or your supervised teaching, and the minimum number is 45. Again, most of your programs will likely have this built in already. I wouldn't be too worried, but you do have to be aware of some of these pieces that will make sure that you're eligible to be certified in Australia, in Melbourne. The visa that we would help you get would be a working holiday visa. In order to qualify for this one, you do need to be 35 years or younger for Canadians and UK citizens. For Americans, the magic number is 30 years old. So you do have to be 30 years old or younger to go down on a working holiday visa. Now, it used to be the case that if you were over 30 or 35, this is where your kind of journey would end. We would say, unfortunately, we can't help you out. The opportunity to teach in Australia just isn't there for you. However, now we do have opportunity for you folks as well. So we do have some sponsored contract opportunities as well. For the most part, these opportunities are going to require a 2-year minimum of full-time contract teaching experience. It's a little bit complicated, but the reason for that is mostly because Australian schools need to figure out kind of what visa to put you on and that kind of piece. We would help you with that as well. And if you go down as a sponsored teacher, we're going to facilitate that process for you. So we're going to set you up with interviews, make sure you're comfortable with whatever school you pick and picks you, and then continue to provide that full relocation support that I've mentioned. If you're somebody who's a new teacher and you don't qualify for the working holiday visa, so that 30-year age gap or that 35-year age gap, depending on your citizenship, this is also something that we can have a conversation about. Again, most Australian schools are going to want you to have that full-time experience, but we can chat kind of on an individual basis for certain circumstances. These salary ranges are also very good. So certainly something to keep in mind in terms of sponsorship opportunities as well. This is also a really good pathway for folks that are new graduates who maybe want to go down, teach on guaranteed pay, do the full-time supply work. And then once you've got a bit of that Aussie experience, schools will also consider you for contract work as well. And again, we can chat about that. All right, so the application process. We are hiring now. Basically, the way that this works is we're going to have you fill out a bio form on our website. This is very straightforward. It'll take you 5 or 10 minutes at the most. And we're just going to collect some basic information, some demographics. So your age, your location, your teaching preferences, when you're thinking about heading down, some contact information, all of those different things. That's going to allow us to get in touch with you and then to request a resume, a photo, and some references. We try to be pretty flexible with references. I know for folks, again, that are maybe still in school or brand new teachers, that can be a little bit tricky. So you're welcome to use supervising teachers or maybe individuals who can speak to teaching related competencies like staff you've worked with at camps or different things like that, tutoring maybe, all of those things will work for us. It's all good. If all of that goes well, then you're going to be doing a Zoom interview. That will likely be with myself, could be with one of my colleagues as well. We're a pretty small organization. And basically, the Zoom interview will look a little bit similar to this webinar in terms of we'll kind of share with you in more detail some of the opportunity that Leading Out has. You'll have lots of time to ask any questions, and we'll ask you a bit about your teaching as well. If all goes well and we like you and you like us and you want to go teach in Australia, then we're going to make an offer to work with you. And then basically it's full steam ahead from there. So we'll get started on helping you get credentialed, your visa, flights, all those different things. Really common question that I get asked, when should I apply? So we would always say that the sweet spot is about a year from when you think you might like to be going down. So to give you all an example, I'm already interviewing and hiring teachers who are looking to go down in January 2025, or a little bit after that, February or March. We would say probably don't apply more than a year in advance. The reason for that being is that, life can certainly change a lot in a year or over a year. And we want to make sure that when you apply, this is something that you're strongly considering in your teaching plan, and that life kind of won't get in the way of that. In terms of a minimum, we really want to make sure that you're not applying less than 3 to 4 months in advance of when you think you might like to be going down. The reason for that is it does take a little while between your interview, helping you get all of these different things organized, your credentialing application, your visa, all of those things do take a little bit of time, and we would never want you to be too rushed going down. So I would say minimum 3 to 4 months, maximum about a year or just over a year is usually a nice timeline for application. All right, thank you all for listening so intently. We're coming to the end, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about all the amazing travel opportunities that are there in Australia and the surrounding area for our teachers. So a lot of folks head down for these travel opportunities. As Tim mentioned in my intro, I did a lot of traveling while I was down there. Absolutely loved it. The school holidays are a great time to go and do these things, and there's so much good opportunity around. So I've put up pictures from 3 of my favorite destinations, but these are certainly not comprehensive or not a comprehensive list. On the far right side, you've got Tasmania. This is actually a part of Australia. It's its own island off the south coast. And I always say it's like a mini New Zealand. I just think it's such a fun place to go, great for road trips, wildlife, hiking. Hobart, the city there, has an amazing little market and things like that. So a really cool destination and very close from Melbourne. I think my flight was like 40 minutes. This middle image is of Bali, Indonesia. This is a really common vacation destination for both Australians and international folks as well. And again, amazing culture there. They go and hang out at resorts and beaches and do all of those beautiful things, and connect with the Indonesian folks as well. And then on the far left-hand side is a picture of Fiji. So one other perk to working with Leading Out is you get access to our preferred travel agents. And one of the best parts of their job is connecting you all with really cool layovers. So a lot of the time, teachers will do an awesome layover in places like Fiji, sometimes Hawaii, Japan, sometimes, lots of opportunity there on their way down to Australia. You can see those destinations much cheaper, and it really makes your trip a lot more fun. So I would highly recommend having that conversation down the line for sure. All right, we've already talked a lot about Australia. I don't need to spend too much time. I think it totally sells itself. But all this to say that there is so much awesome travel opportunity within Australia, within the country itself. So being in Melbourne, always a great place to be based. You're about an hour plane ride or an 8 hour drive from Sydney. I've done both to get there, been there a couple times. It's a beautiful place to go check out. Definitely a bit more touristy, not quite as livable as Melbourne. Again, we can have that conversation if people's hearts were really set on Sydney, but we find that our teachers just have a much better experience in Melbourne in terms of living, and then can go travel to Sydney and some of these other places. Melbourne is the sporting capital of the Southern Hemisphere, I think it's called. It's got an amazing arts and culture scene, more cafes per capita than I think anywhere else in the world, and always one of the most livable cities in the world. So it's really a great place to be based. And then in terms of travel, if you go up the West Coast, you've got Perth. If you go up the East Coast, you've got Sydney, Gold Coast, Brisbane, Cairns, all these amazing places. So much great travel opportunity. All right, so I kept alluding to New Zealand throughout the presentation. I do want to touch on this briefly. So we definitely do work in New Zealand, and we have historically. We haven't been sending as many teachers down there for a couple of reasons. The main reasons are the cost and the earning potential. So our teachers are making more money in Australia, and it's cheaper to get you down there because of flights and visas and paperwork and all of those different things. If you're really, really set on New Zealand and you have to live there, you have to teach there, we usually recommend that teachers consider it in their second year. Reason for that being is you can apply through a mutual agreement. Again, we can chat about that if folks have individual questions, but that just makes the process a little bit easier and cheaper. Other than that, again, being based in Melbourne, you've got lots of opportunity to travel down there, and it's another beautiful, amazing place to go visit for sure. All right, I'm not going to read through this in detail, but it is a testimony from one of our Canadian teachers that we helped last year. And I do want to say as well, we keep talking about how Leading Out is a small organization, but it's true. So definitely go on our Facebook, go on our Instagram, read testimonials from real teachers that have worked with us, and you'll see that everybody is treated like an individual, and you're certainly not a number when you work with us. We also joke that through the process, you all sometimes become friends with us too, just because we work that closely together. So I'll get you to just scan through that quickly, and then we'll keep moving on here. This is also available online if you want to read it. All right, so I want to thank you all for your attention here, for listening to me talk for so long. So I am going to leave this slide up while we kind of do our Q&A. Please go ahead and send me an email if you're interested, if you have personal questions about your specific situation and you want to know some more information. I'm always happy to answer those, and I'm always happy to direct you to next steps if you're interested in applying. Otherwise, you're welcome to check out our website as well, and that's where you can find the bio form and submit your application. All right, I'm seeing my chat and my Q&A light up, and I'm excited to take some of your questions. So maybe we'll start with the Q&A, and then I'll go to the chat if there was anything that I missed. Okay, so excellent. So I did chat a little bit about minimum requirements, just addressing this question about the University of Algeria. If I didn't answer it in detail, you're welcome to send me an email because I think this is probably a more personal question. And also I don't know that we've sent any folks from Algeria. It depends on your citizenship. That will also make a difference for the kind of visa that we send you down on. So I would say please go ahead and send me an email about that. And that's probably going to be our best course there. Yeah, thanks. Okay, in the reviews, how long do teachers teach? Oh, yeah, awesome. So I think this question is referring to how long our teachers typically spend down there. Again, on the guaranteed pay contract, it's very flexible. I would say most teachers that I work with spend between 6 months to a year down there. But again, you're welcome to be done and head home anytime that you want. If you're a teacher that qualifies for a contract, you're usually looking at a minimum of a 1 to 2 year commitment. But again, guaranteed pay, no minimum or maximum, very flexible. Do we have opportunity in remote locations like Alice Springs? That's a great question. So we've got a couple of private folks that we work with. And when I say a couple, I mean, I think it's literally one or two families who will pay private teachers and fly them out to their cattle ranches and their encampments, basically, and have you teach their children and that kind of thing. Those opportunities are extremely rare, but we do have them. But I would say 99.9% of our work in Australia is based in Melbourne at the moment. Yeah, great question. All right. International Sign Language interpreters have to request for several American teachers. Okay. Please go ahead and if you want to send me an email about this one, about sign language interpreters, that would be great. I'm not sure I'm understanding your question, and I think that's probably a more personal one, but thank you for asking. All right, what month does the school year start? Great question. It starts in February and it runs to the middle of December. What content area teachers are you focusing on? Another great question. We are hiring all grade levels, all subjects, every type of school, every type of teacher. We will take any of you. Maximum age limitation. Great question. For our sponsored contracts, the answer is no, no maximum age. Again, that'll be kind of done on a personal or an individual basis. And it depends on how much experience you have as well, but we can chat about that too if you want to send me an email or let me know your personal situation. Awesome. Perfect. Is this visa an opportunity to lead to residency? Another really good question. So certainly sometimes our teachers will stay down there long enough to apply for permanent residency. Again, that's going to be more of an individual kind of question, just because it depends on the visa type and that kind of thing. Some of our working holiday teachers, so if you go down on guaranteed pay, will stay down there a little bit longer and then eventually apply for PR. That's not something that Leading Out will kind of help you with in specific, but we can certainly offer some recommendations as well. Okay, is salary based on credentials? Good question. So you will be on a pay grid similar to probably what you've seen in your home locations for guaranteed pay. So that 370, whether you're a teacher with 0 years of experience or 1 or 2 or 3, going to be paid the same rate. So that's really good for our newly graduating teachers. You get to start out on a really nice rate of pay. For our teachers that are doing contract work, again, you'll be on that scale that I mentioned, and that's going to depend on years of full-time contract teaching experience and credentials as well. Great questions. Okay, I think for now I've cleared question and answer, so I'm going to move on to the chat function, and I'll just scan them through here. Do, do, do. All right, thank you all for tuning in. All right. Oh, good question. What are the fees we're looking at? Yeah, this is an excellent question. So you're gonna first be paying your leading out registration fee. So it's $350 to work with us. That is a one-time fee, whether you teach with us for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. You never pay us more than that. That fee basically covers my time working with you and then access to our teaching and contract opportunities. Other than that, you're going to be paying for your visa. For the working holiday visa, that one is about $600 Australian. So it'll be a little bit less in Canadian and American dollars. And then you're also going to be paying for your credential as well. So that will be less than 250 Australian dollars. I say less than because that fee is prorated. So that can kind of change depending on the time of year that you apply. And then other than that, some of your big relocation costs are going to be things like your initial Airbnb when you get down there, first and last month's rent, your flight, of course, and then kind of initial costs for incidentals to get you set up. These fees are going to be paid by you as the teacher, but we always find that within about a month of working down there full time on the guaranteed pay contract, teachers have paid back or recouped all of their relocation costs to get down there. So you definitely are making some pretty good money. And like I said before, work with a lot of new graduates, and we know that sometimes the cost can be a lot right up front. So we can also work with you to spread out all of the costs that I just mentioned. Awesome. Perfect. All right. And I just mentioned the fees. Excellent. Okay. Now I've got another one in the Q&A. Are there specific schools and locations posted on the website? Yeah, it's a good question. So we work with so many different schools in Melbourne, public, private, what I would call specialty or special population schools. And that list is does change kind of from time to time, depending on which schools we're working with at any given moment. So we don't have the school list posted. But in terms of locations, you can be secure knowing that they're all Melbourne or the surrounding area. And then if you're interested in something really specialized, we often post those on our Facebook page. But for the most part, and especially for guaranteed pay, it's all in Melbourne and the surrounding area. Awesome. Stipends or sign-on bonus? Good question. So if you've explored our website, you may have seen that last year we were doing a relocation bonus or a sign-on bonus. Again, those were for our 2+ year contract teachers, so folks that already had full-time experience, and that was a government-sponsored initiative. So I should mention as well that Leading Out is the only recruitment organization that is endorsed by Home Affairs Australia. And so basically that means that we often have access to government sponsored positions or initiatives or that kind of thing. And so through them, we were offering this relocation bonus. That initiative has expired, so it is done for now. However, we may be seeing that renewed into 2024. And if that's the case, we're going to, of course, let all of our teachers know right away. But again, that is only for the teachers that have 2+ years of full-time ongoing experience. Perfect. Yes, and I do have the website and my contact information posted on the slide. And if you're not sure, you have more questions, you feel free to email me directly at any point, please. Okay, I think I've cleared all the Q&A. Thank you for helping me manage that, Tim. And I think I've cleared the chat questions as well. But I will just pause for a moment. If anybody has any final thoughts or questions, I'd love to answer them. Otherwise, send me an email or get in touch via our website. I love lots of questions. Thank you. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, I think that's it for me then.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Linnea. I really appreciate it. I think everybody who attended appreciated you, and yeah, hopefully you'll get some follow-up communications from these folks.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
All right, everybody have a great day. Bye, Linnea.
Bye. Thank you.